Laura Jones, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us this evening. You are, if I may say, something of a phenomenon within the world of motorsport. You're a mechanic, you're a team member with a very successful GT team, and you've been a team member with other very successful GT teams. You're a photographer, you've been active on social media, you're an equestrian, you've been involved in the promotional and media side, and this year you're competing for the top prize in the 2022 Formula Woman prize, which I'd like to come on to later. But before we talk about that and your preparation for the final, I'd like to go back to the start of your motorsport career and ask you, where did your interest in motorsport come from, Laura?
It's my dad to blame for that, of all people. So he used to do a bit of sort of road rallying and hill climbing, and then unfortunately I was born, so that all stopped. He then kind of went into classic cars, so cars were always, sort of around the family and everything, and then being taken to sort of Mallory Park and Donington as a young child to watch the touring cars and the sort of motorbikes and sidecars. So the interest has always been there. It's always been in the family, so it was going to happen at some point, I think.
And how did you make the transition from racing enthusiast to race mechanic? Because that's quite a big jump, isn't it?
Yeah, massively. It all happened quite strangely. So I was actually asked to be a grid girl for a GT3 team back in 2018, I think it was, which was completely out of the blue, nothing I'd ever done. So ended up doing that for most of the season, and being totally honest, was getting bored in between waiting for the race start. So started tinkering with the car as and when, and eventually they turned around to me and they said, "Do you want to come to a test event with us as a number 2? We'll see how you get on." And yeah, the rest is history, really. So that's where we're at now.
Fantastic. And because you've got you've got a Mark 1 Escort, haven't I seen on social media? Something that looks rather nice.
Yeah, I got a Mark 2, 1977.
Ah, okay.
Slowly. So yeah.
Okay. And of course, the big news at the back end of last year, moving into 2022, was your entry into the contest to win the 2022 Formula Woman prize. So for the benefit of our viewers who aren't familiar with this, could you explain what it is and how you came to apply for it last year?
Absolutely. So how I actually came about to applying for it was through a good friend of mine, Gemma Moore, who you'll know is younger sister to Sarah Moore, who obviously competes in.
Oh, of course, yeah.
W Series. So she made me aware of it, and what the competition is a female-based competition, and it started off with, I think it was around about 800 people started in the main sort of assessment to see whether or not you'd qualify. The aim of the game is to prove that you are worthy of a seat in a GT4 McLaren in GT Cup, which obviously anyone in this industry knows the sort of value and everything behind that. So it's a huge prize. So,
I mean, that's a £250,000 prize, isn't it?
Exactly.
That is staggering.
Yeah, so no, massive prize, and yeah, the opportunity to do that for anyone within the industry or outside of the industry is absolutely phenomenal. So as you can imagine, there's a lot of girls at the minute who have got through to where we are now that are heads down, pressure's on.
Oh, and what have you been assessed on so far to get to the stage where you are competing in the final round?
So original assessment, mine actually took place at Bedford Autodrome, so down at Palmer's. It was based on numerous things, so fitness test being one of them. So they sort of put you through everything just to make sure that your basic fitness is there. Driving, so the actual speed of your driving, so to speak, wasn't a huge thing. It was more your consistency and understanding of the lines to show that you had kind of the basics and the groundworks of it there. We also did a media test, so just to see how you get on with being interviewed, quite randomly as well. So you jump out the car and there'd be, possibly a camera straight there, which you weren't kind of like. We did karting. That wasn't going towards the actual assessment points per se, but we did some karting as well. And then the other thing was a written test. So it was quite a combination of different things. It wasn't just based on driving alone. So yeah, it was interesting to see that and see how they put all of that together.
Because you've just taken and passed your ARDS test, have you not?
Yes, correct. Yeah.
And was that part of your sort of selection criteria for participation in the final round, or is that something you've done in expectation that you're going to win it?
No, to be honest with you, so the one good thing about Formula Woman is you cannot enter if you've raced previously.
Yes, yeah.
And there's loads of scholarships where you have to have karted and stuff like that. So it's the one amazing thing about this competition that Grey and Blue has sort of put into this. You can't have any experience. The ARDS test itself was, I've always wanted to do my race licence, so it was more of a sort of personal challenge to see if I could get it and kind of tick it off the list, I guess. So I thought now's a good time to get it done, and fingers crossed we can make some use of it.
Fantastic. And the final round, I believe, is March, is it not, for Formula Woman?
Yeah.
And what will you be? What will that day look like? Do you think? Have you been told what you're going to be tested on?
Yeah, within reason. I think a few things are going to be sort of kept until the day when we get there. So 2nd and 3rd of March are the two big days that we're all working towards. All I know at the moment is that there will be a lot of karting that's going to be done, so that's something that I'm working on at the moment. There will be a simulator test, I believe, so on the driving sim, a reaction test, a media test, and I believe a written test as well. The fitness, we've been told, is out a bit for this stage, as we've kind of proved that we're sort of at that point. However, going through to then the main finals, I'm not sure as to whether or not that will come back in again. Sure.
Because on the karting side, did I not see you were invited to? You were a test driver on at a karting circuit a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, so Daytona Karting kindly invited me down to Milton Keynes. We went out in the D-Max karts, which are a lot quicker than karts that I've been used to. So I've sort of done literally corporate days. So Greystone, for example, the GT team that I'm with, they invited us down last year, and we did sort of a corporate day with them, and the karts were obviously much slower, less power. That was enough for me, to be honest with you. So to go out in these Daytona karts, and it was slightly wet as well, was quite an experience. They're sort of 70 miles an hour up the straight, so you can imagine when you're that close to the floor at 70.
Yeah, brilliant. When I saw that, I thought, wow, you've moved to aspiring racing driver to being a test driver and development driver. I thought that's pretty good going in about 6 months. Because one of the things I've noticed that you've been very active on social media is you've been building your brand partners. And I'm guessing that's kind of taking you down the path of sponsors as well. Funding a racing career has always been one of the biggest challenges for aspiring race car drivers. So how have you approached what must have been a brand new challenge for you?
Oh, do you know what? It's been a huge learning curve, but it's opened my eyes massively as to how difficult it is. Obviously, working in the industry, I see people all the time, friends that I've got to know through the paddock that, I'm sort of saying, why are you not racing this year? Couldn't get sponsorship. And until you actually try to do it yourself, you don't realise the challenges. So my actual sponsors that I started off with have allowed me to build up my own kind of network hub, so to speak, which I feel then has allowed me to then get my later sponsors, my later partners, who have actually then worked together, which I think is fantastic. I think the main thing is ensuring that you're giving them something back. It's very, very easy to kind of go, could you give me this? I'm going racing. You need to ensure that you've got some value in yourself and that you're going to actually that as well. There's plenty of people that do a big announcement, I've got this sponsor, and you hear nothing back from them. You don't kind of see anything else. You don't learn about the sponsor. So that's one thing I would sort of say I do kind of pride myself in, is that I'm constantly trying to push them. And if I see maybe a doorway that would open that may suit them, is kind of, introduce them where possible to kind of help them out on their side as well.
And you touched on Greystone GT. They've had a very successful last 12 months, and by the looks of it, a very busy 2022 season coming up. And you're going to be part of that, I take it, in GT Cup?
Yes, correct. I can't say too much at the moment, because obviously there's a few announcements to come out.
Sure.
It's going to be a very, very busy and a very exciting year. Just to be a part of the team, to be honest, is quite a privilege, really, because I think obviously with last year being their first proper season we had, and then obviously we just got back from golf. We won the GT4 Golf 12 Hour. I think there's high expectations to go on there. It's a fantastic team to work with, absolutely.
And by the looks of it, you might be going abroad as well, because they've got an entry into the GT4 European Series, haven't they?
That's correct.
So that's going to be... Well, I think they're going to be a fantastic team to work with. I think that's going to be a really exciting programme this year. I should be following them very closely. I guess my last question, bearing in mind your sort of entry-level experience into motorsport and the success that you've had so far, and fingers crossed that you're successful in the next round and we see you on the grid in GT Cup, is if you were, what advice would you give to a young person today looking to break into motorsport?
I think the best thing I can say is you need to be prepared to come out your comfort zone. Especially when you're quite young. Obviously, as you know, it can be quite an intimidating kind of industry. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of responsibility. There's a lot of money there, so if things go wrong, it's, it's a big, big thing. So you've got to be willing to obviously put the graft in. I think, as I'm pretty sure you were sort of touching on earlier with John Paul, a lot of people aren't willing to take you on without experience. So I think you've got to be willing to sort of go in there and maybe go a little bit voluntary and just show that you're willing, show that you've got that work ethic. And going with an open mind. You might go in there with the intention of doing one role, but there may be another role completely better suited for you. I went in as a grid girl. I'm now, sort of mechanicking and all of that, which I much prefer. I enjoy the media and everything. There's so many different avenues that you can take. I think you just need to be open-minded and very hard-working, to be honest.
Brilliant. Well, Laura Jones, thank you very much for your time this evening. We wish you all the very best in the final round of Formula Woman, and I hope we see you on the GT Cup grid next year. I'm sure our paths will cross in the paddock at some stage with Greystone GT. But thanks very much for your time this evening, and good luck.
No, thank you very much. Just very quickly, if I could just say a massive, massive thank you to everyone for all their support at the moment, whether that's sponsors, partners, family and friends. It's been incredible. So thank you very much, and thank you for having me.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Laura. We'll see you again very soon, I hope.
Thank you. Take care. All the best.
Hi, this is Nick Hamilton, and this is Motorsport Radio.